Hey everyone, my name is Remy, and thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of the Grad Connect. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about finding home. No matter what stage you're in of life, just graduated and you're moving to a new city, starting grad school, moving to a new city, some way, somehow, you do need to find home. What do you mean by finding home? I kind of want to start with something that's very personal to me. Some of you may or may not know, but I was born and raised in Chicago. And when I graduated high school, I decided to move across the country to a new city. When I got there, there was a woman who essentially ran the Black Grad Student Union. It was a space where a lot of Black, Latinx, people of color would kind of congregate to find community. And when I first started, she said, "Hey, come find me when you get to campus and get settled." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I show up. I'm like, "Hey, Miss Kennedy, how are you?" And she is like, "Hey, how are you settling in? And have you found home?" And I was kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "You're at a PWI and it can be intimidating to enter new spaces where you may not necessarily feel welcome. So that's why it's important that you find home." And what she was essentially describing was a social safety net. And that really spoke to me and stuck with me for several years to come, as we can see now. Because no matter where you are in life, whether you just graduated, moved to a new city for grad school, you're starting a new job in a city that you've always been, you're always going to find yourself entering new spaces. And her point was that it's easier to enter new spaces when you are coming from a place of security. So for me, finding home really means no matter where you are in life, kind of finding a social safety net of sorts, whether that's a professional association, friends in your new community slash city, or just a way to feel anchored wherever you are so you're not kind of free floating. That's kind of what we want to get into today. And I feel like it's an important topic to discuss. A lot of us have moved to new cities, and with the pandemic hopefully behind us, we're starting to come out of our shells, meet people. And a lot of my friends who are young professionals in grad school and in that space are kind of like, how do I meet people in my new city? And maybe you're thinking that right now as I'm saying what I'm saying. So that's kind of what we're here to discuss today. As an example, I moved to a new city when I started grad school. Where I was living before I went to undergrad there, I worked there for 2 years. So I was pretty in touch with the city. I had a strong community of friends, people that I consider family now. And I moved to a city where I knew no one. And this was in 2021. So as the pandemic was still in its throes, we weren't sure if we were supposed to be doing hybrid classes, in-person classes, Zoom classes. And I just felt very, I felt like a fish out of water, truth be told. And I thankfully had someone in my corner who was able to say, "Hey, I lived in that city. Here's what I experienced, and here's how you can kind of make it through." And that's where Ree comes in,
Hey,
because
y'all.
she started off as a mentor to me. And I would say now we're more like lifelong friends. A lot of us are in new places, maybe places we don't even like to be in. Where I'm at right now is just not necessarily where I would have chosen in hindsight, but hindsight's 2020. But if you're there for 5, 6, 7 years for a graduate degree, like a doctoral degree, like I am, or maybe you're there for work, how do you find community? Maybe it's there and you just have to find it, but sometimes it's not there and you kind of have to dig a little deeper, or in some cases you have to create what you're looking for.
I'll take this opportunity to chime in. So, again, Ree here. And even though some people don't like this title, I'll take it. I'm cool with being auntie. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? If I'm made it this far, And I still my numerical age ain't caught up to what I feel like inside, which is probably closer to my shoe age. But these taxes are telling me I'm grown, so it don't make no difference, right? Bills got to get paid no matter what age.
No, for real.
And so I think there's a lot of credit to be given to you, Remy, as far as leveraging the community that you have to then create something in a new space. And so that's for those of you that have a similar experience where you have built this community, whether it's from from undergrad or from a previous place of employment, and this where you were living at the time afforded you the opportunity to really get tapped into folks where you live. This is this is one way where you again you don't have to overcomplicate it. Literally call your people and say, listen, I'm moving from zip code A to zip code B. Who out there? Because I'm not trying to sit here and stare at my reflection and watch paint dry 7 days a week. So I, you got to get me tapped in real right quick. So, I think that's one way where you can sit down and say, what are the resources that I have that I can leverage to the best of my ability? I would say that you want to mix, right? Because no matter where you are, whether it's you're in school or out of school, you want to have that balance where you find people that can pour into you in a very social way, and then people that can pour into you in a professional way, because I think the balance is going to be key. And it's not even saying that the people that you're connecting with in either bucket, right, have to have the same interest, because the joy of moving to a new space, new location, but also more importantly, just another day to walk on this earth is an opportunity to try something new. So if you like painting and you've never done skateboarding and you find somebody that you click with that does skateboarding, that can open up a door of opportunities as far as just building your social network in that very organic way. But at the same in the same breath, if you're I don't know, if you're interested in becoming, I don't know, a welder, right? Find people that have connections in that space too, or beyond, because I mean, I'm sure welders work in different industries. That also can serve you. Or better yet, you could be a welder and you connect with an artist, because it's still the idea of just creating something. So don't pigeonhole yourself when you're thinking about making those connections. Suggest, well, they have to do what I do, they have to like what I like. That only creates just, it doesn't allow you to explore the other undiscovered parts of your personality. So the courage is not just being able to make the ask, but also being able to step into the unknown beyond what's expected of you, right? And or what you've expected of yourself. Because for you, Remy, you knew very clear why grad school was even an option on your table, but then also thinking about where you were living or where you would go, what would be able to not only serve you as a transplant, but then also, what can serve me within the school, what can serve me outside. Where will I go that's going to have me turned up every Tuesday through Sunday? That may not bring out the be all I can be. I mean, I could be a lot of things, but that's not going to be the things I need to be.
That's crazy because I think where I was before grad school, I'm thankful to have had a very full social life, if you will. And it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, like if I want to go out, turn up, that's available to me. But I think the pandemic shifted a lot of things for
That is
me,
true. That is true.
and for a lot of people, I guess. But it was like, okay, what do you do when you're not in the club on a Saturday, when you're not at work Monday through Friday? What is that space that you occupy in between? And for me, a lot of the times it was hanging out with friends. And when you're in a new city, you don't necessarily have friends on day zero. So what
Mhm.
do you do? Well, you kind of have to seek out the friends that you want to have. So going to places that are of your interest. You also want to think about like other places that you can go. I'm really into art, so going to museums. And I really like that they have like social hours, happy hours. But the pandemic changed a lot of that. So a lot of those spaces that we would normally go to after work, but before we go to bed, we're no longer a thing. And so it was either club or happy hour at restaurant. And I wasn't necessarily satisfied with that. And I remember one of my many phone calls to you, I was like, hey, Ree. And you're like, what you doing? I was like, oh, I'm reading my bio textbook. And you're like, on a Saturday? And you connected me to one of your friends that you had here who's still living here.
I know
Uh,
that's right.
and you were like, hey, such and such is going to take you out, going to have some fun. Please put away your cell biology textbook. Sometimes the answer is to just get out there and have fun. Literally just do it. Like I'm sitting here telling you, like 3 years in, telling you to just go out. Well, Remy, I don't want to go out by myself. Girl, listen.
It'd be
Boy,
a good time. It'd be a good old time.
it do. And honestly, I think it's the fact that you never know who you're gonna meet.
Yep.
You can meet anybody. And I think for myself, it started off the organic way, like connecting with people in my lab that I work in and being like, hey, and then being like, oh, let's go out. That was a very organic way. But then I think there were times where I had to put a little bit of effort in.
Mhm.
So there were some people in my cohort that I wouldn't necessarily see day to day because they work in a different lab. We don't necessarily take the same classes. But I was like, my spirit took to you.
There you go.
I'm going to continue to pursue connection with you. And honestly, that resulted in me having one of my best friends here in this city. And honestly, just a very important person in my life in general. We were able to connect, which allowed me to start building out my community in that way.
I will say your story speaks to having the confidence to uh pursue a connection that felt right. And I should also say we should put an asterisk, I mean, still tread carefully. Just don't think because you meet a new person, like, oh my God, yeah, like this is a year of yes. I'm just gonna hop into Uber with this person and let's see where the night takes us. We don't want anyone ended up in
Yeah, always use
not
common sense.
positive.
Yeah, that's what
It's
let's
not talking
always use common sense. Don't be just going anywhere with anybody. Like when I say that my spirit took to this person, I'm really
Yep.
talking about someone in my cohort who, even though I didn't see them every day, they were still in the same program with me.
I know
I
their face, I know their
Yeah, I know
last
the name.
name.
Yeah. We're not talking about that person that you met in the club. Your spirit did not take to them.
Take to that. And can we also put a disclaimer on that, the footnote for the folks because so we're Caribbean. We are
Yeah.
Caribbean. So when we say my spirit didn't take you, that really means something about you don't sit with me.
No, for real.
Well,
Okay.
and trust that instinct. It has, in my big age, the more I leaned into it, the less it has failed me.
Let's not forget, we started this whole thing with you're in a new city.
That
You
is
don't
true.
know nobody.
You don't
So
know the red flags yet.
while you may feel that your spirit has taken to someone, remember common sense. Like keep
Mm-hmm.
yourself safe. But
Mm-hmm.
still be open to new connections and new friendships. Like when I say my spirit took to this person, she was someone in my program. So it was someone who I was like, okay, maybe I had to put a little bit of extra effort in, but I actually really like hanging out with this person.
Yeah.
And we're both in a similar spot where we don't necessarily have like our clique already decided for us. So, how do we find ways to have community? Like we're social creatures as humans, as my dad would always say. Um, and so we need to be able to interact with one another,
Mm-hmm.
to socialize, to have a break from the day in and day out of a PhD. Now it's like, okay, well, now it's time to have some fun. How do I have fun in this new city that I don't know anyone in? Um, and so this person my spirit just took to her and we were just off.
So I'm gonna shift it a bit because this is where I started originally, and then I went down all the footnotes I wanted to add to make sure people are out here staying safe versus saying, "Yo, Rhea Remy told me live my best life, and now here I am want to investigate now." Like I don't need that. So
Like, don't
that
want
escalated very
to
quickly.
don't
Escalated
want to see you
quickly.
on first 48.
But I'm thinking of a young woman that I don't know her personally, but I stumbled across her TikTok, and she was uh, in New York. And I told this to you, Remy. I think she's either studying. She's in med school, and I think she was either studying at Cornell or Columbia. Either way, she was in the city, and she was speaking about this loneliness, and my mind was blown because I'm saying first and foremost, you in New York, like you could find somebody. I don't know what that somebody gonna be like, but you either gonna be found or you can find somebody. But I think about her because part what what I thought about immediately in reading her, what she was willing to put out there in a very what I consider a vulnerable post was, being introverted. And I don't know if what comes off here, but I tell people all the time, do not be fooled by the blips of when you see me being social. I'm an ambivert and I lean very heavily on the introverted side. I tell people all the time, the running joke is if you leave me by myself in an event, I'm finding the cheese and the crackers with my little plate, my napkin, and I'm finding the corner, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna chill and I'm gonna people watch until someone approaches me. That is not a recommendation to do that. That was something I had to work through. But I bring this up because if you happen to be someone who is more introverted and at a point where you are ready to say, listen, I want to do different because I'm in this new space. I want to meet new people. I want to experience more out of life. I want something more robust at, where I am literally and figuratively, you know, start with what you know. So to Remy's point, she likes art, those platforms, or even IG, to be honest, where, what's happening in the art scene in my city, right? And I think I don't care if you're in California, Idaho, New York, Quebec, doesn't matter. There's something happening more than likely in that space, right? Now, this can go one of two ways. Earlier to what you said earlier, Remy, which was either the community is there and you tap in, or you build it because it's a void. And so, if it's being done, then that's your self challenge of the day, right? I found this event that, whether it's free or at cost, it's within your budget. And it's allowing me to go to a museum in this new city. So I've never been, or I get to experience with different people. But you you're in something where other individuals are gravitating towards it. And so you're starting to find people that share some interest that you have. Again, that's a starting point. It's what you're comfortable with, work with it. But if it's not there, then depending on your bandwidth, and this is where maybe an opportunity for you to challenge yourself. It's, well, what can I do because this is something that I like, and I guarantee you, if you like it, there's someone else out there who probably is curious about it or shares the same passion, but for whatever reason weren't able to build something sustainable, let's say, right? And so this is an opportunity for you to say, boom, I like art. Low level, maybe starting an Instagram page that speaks to art or artists in that city that you move to, right? You're not out there really looking for likes. This gives you an opportunity to explore something that you know and enjoy, dig a little bit deeper, bring something to a city and see where that grows. And then obviously tap into your network, be like, yo, like this page because you my friend, do better. So like my stuff. And so it gets some eyes, but that may be one way. Or if you're a bit more extroverted, it might be, you know what, I've done this or I've been here. I'd love to do a link up for people. Be like, yo, listen, I'm looking for 2 to 3 other people that want to go to XYZ museum because there's a new show. Definitely would like to get different perspectives, right? So there are ways to be creative. I think it's just being intentional about that. To your point, Remy, as far as like this was a meeting, your friend, it's I like this person, I vibe with her, right? And so I'm gonna see where this goes in the safest way possible.
No, for sure. And I think, we're speaking from a place of experience. So we've done this already. So it sounds very easy. But what I do want to kind of lend credence to is the fact that it isn't easy. When
That's
you get somewhere, the first thing you're like, okay, I need to ensure my own survival. How do I like live in this city? Where are my grocery stores? Is my apartment furnished? All these other things. And then you wake up and you feel kind of secure in your existence and you say, well, how do I make friends? And so, a lot of us, me, I'm raising my hand. I like to go to events with other people. When you don't have friends yet, that's hard because you're like, dang, I would like to go to this thing, but I don't have anyone to go with. I learned to go with me, myself, and I. I'm the best friend.
facts, facts.
Um,
They be
and
my
so,
bestest friends.
no, for
Yes.
real. So, like, essentially, what I started doing was just going to events on my own, finding things that I was genuinely interested in, and just going there. I think a lot of times when you're in grad school or you're moving to a new city or you're just starting your career, you want to go to these things with a social buffer in case it's like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like you have an escape through another person. But I think the real building of character happens when you're in a place of discomfort. And for me, that's been going to places where I don't know anybody, but this has sparked my interest, so I'm going to go on my own. Being an ambivert, I think I'm very introverted at first brush, and the way my face is set up, I look very unapproachable, we'll call it. For me, it's been very much like, oh, I don't necessarily look approachable, or maybe people have thought something along the lines of, oh, I didn't think you liked me. I just have a straight face. I'm from a big city. I'm not gonna be out here smiling and hee hee ha ha and with everybody.
Stalkers are everywhere. Oh my God.
So for me, it's turned into me learning how to go to places on my own and approach people and just see what sparks or does not. You're not going to connect with everyone, and that's okay. Not everybody is meant to be your friend. Not everybody is meant to like your special flavor. Whoever you are as a person, it's not necessarily that everybody's going to like you.
Mhm.
What I think is truthfully very important is finding people that care about your well being, want to be around you, and running with that. And so, what I want everyone here to kind of take home with them is that yes, I may be in a new place. Yes, I want to get friends, but don't have friends just for the sake of having people around. Have some people that you have a genuine connection with because the last thing you need is someone that you don't really like, but you hanging around them because,
That's
oh, well,
toxic.
they know where all the parties are and they know all the best DJs. Don't have people around that you don't like.
And that's a topic in and of itself because, when you think about, I think we learned this, we start to navigate this a bit more in undergrad. This idea of, we have, there's still this community, right? There's still this home. It's just it's insulated to a degree, right? We're the common core is we're all at this school, um, looking to complete a 4-year degree or a 5-year program, whatever. But it's still, I think, because you're still finding yourself as a person, you'll have corporate jargon is you have the scope creep, but I think it's in, where, you don't realize you're not willing to let go of the individuals or the things that don't serve you. And that's another topic in and of itself. But I will say what I think is what's valuable within the scope of what we're discussing today, whether you're in grad school or a young professional, you're still creating these boundaries. And it's not a bad thing because it's really more about boundaries that are related to who you're starting to learn yourself to be, to say, this is a part of myself that is a non-negotiable. And then as you identify that non-negotiable piece, you level up. Before it may have been, listen, I'm cool with the pool in my backyard above ground, but now I'm at a point where I want below ground. And that's a preference, right? Some cool with above ground. Some people like, no, I want below ground. I want it in ground. And I also want the infinity. It's just a matter of that's for you and this is for me. And all of that as you're moving forward in life, as you're growing, all of those bits and pieces are you cultivating that community and finding that home because it's there are people that will challenge you, but they also affirm the things that are important to you
Yeah.
and that you value. So don't be afraid to transition, right? Because I mean, just like I think we all as individuals we shed skin, literally we shed skin, right? And so that happens in a very emotional way and in a very spiritual way as well. And so all of that is a part of the process. And I think you said this earlier, Remy. It can be unnerving, it can be scary, but there is so much value in being willing to explore the unknown. And because I think the thing that we're usually afraid of is how will it hurt me versus the default being, well, how could this help me? Right.
Yeah.
And that could be as simple as, listen, I'm a grad student, but I'm going to take a photography class on the side because that's just an interest of mine. I've always wanted to try it. And you'll be surprised how things that you've tried on a whim, some way, shape, or form, come back and I mean, sometimes the purpose is it just serves you. It makes you happy. But it may also be able to it may be advantageous in other areas of your life that you may not have expected. And so I encourage you to move past that fear and more beneficial if you have a team of people that if you need to, like, listen, I'm thinking about this but I have reservations about moving forward, then having that community to bounce those ideas off of, whether that's tapping back into the people that you went to school with in undergrad and have grown with you, or people that you've started to develop a certain level of trust with where you are, or if family's an option, but someone to help you navigate that. There's an opportunity for that dialogue. And if you ain't got it, you already know we building it. So I mean, we here too. You got to DM us and let us know.
I think that, you touched on some things that are very personal to me. Every, like you said, we shed skin. And I think one of the reasons why moving to a new place can be exciting, scary, nerve-wracking, and making new connections there is because in some ways, as you shed your skin, you're trading in the person you used to be for the person that you want to be in the
Mm-hmm.
future. And you're afraid that your community that you started prior will no longer be there with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, on this journey that we call life, not everybody is meant to go to the destination with you. There's
Mm-hmm.
some people that are just here for the ride, and they're only here for a particular season, they're only here for a particular segment, and you have to have some of the discernment to say, like, okay, while this person served me when I was in X location, now I'm in Y location, maybe our dynamic doesn't really stand the test of time. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow because no one ever wants to kind of cut someone off.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to put yourself first. You know, where are you looking to go?
Mm-hmm.
And who do you want to be at the end of that journey? And would that person tolerate what's happening right now? I truly believe that sometimes it's the friendships, relationships that we break more so than the relationships we make that really delineates who you're going to be later on. And so your community has to be serving you. It's not so, and I know it sounds kind of,
People will call it selfish. They'll
yeah,
call it selfish.
self-centered, but
No.
it's the Remy show, it's the Ree show, it's the John show, it's the Mary show, whoever it is. It's your show. Hire, fire, promote, demote as you see needed. Your community has to hold you up. And if you have energy killers in your midst, you have to root them out, as tough as it is. And so and for me, it's very personal because there are times where I have had to make the decision where it's not so dramatic as like, oh, we're never speaking anymore, but like you no longer There's some people who I've had to decide where you're no longer in my innermost circle where you know everything about me.
Yeah.
Maybe you're on the fringes or even the outer edges of my circle. And that is more so for me than for you because our relationship has changed, not because you did something, maybe you did, but more so because I'm changing, my needs are changing. I still need to be able to show up as a whole person. My community needs to work towards that function. Like, it can't be that I'm serving you and there's no reciprocity.
Balance. It's
So,
balance.
you
Definitely.
know, as you're navigating new spaces, and for me, I'm navigating spaces where a lot of times I'm the only one. And I hate that I had to say that in the year of our Lord 2024, but it's reality. There's times where I'm the only one.
Mhm.
So when I exit those spaces where I'm the only one, I want to go to spaces where I'm
Yes.
being replenished, where my
Mhm.
cup is being refilled and I can pour into others as they're pouring into me. But if you notice that you have those relationships that are very one dimensional, ask yourself, what is that doing for you, if anything, and root it out if need be. Don't say, I don't want people
Don't
saying,
say Remy told me.
break up
Remy
with my
cut you off.
boyfriend. Remy made me cut off my best friend of 10 years. No, 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 no. That's not what I said. But I do want you to take an honest stock of who, what, when, and where you are and go from there. Because, you know, I've been fortunate where most of my friends have been very supportive of the journey of grad school for me. I'm here with Ree, someone who has seen me through many different seasons of my life. And I want that for everyone. But that that type of community, that type of garden of people that you're cultivating, you have to cultivate it in so much that you have to weed out the people that should not be there.
Mhm.
And that's hard. It's like taking like it's one of those things where it's like you're taking cough syrup because you have a really bad cough. Everybody knows Robitussin is nasty. But you know on the other side of it, you're gonna feel better. It's one of those things where it's therapeutic in a way. It may
Mhm.
not feel good at first, but on the other side of it is a better version of yourself. And so I want you all to think the same way of your community and who you are as well, because part of your community is actually starting with yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to focus on he, she,
And
they.
they and them, everybody outside, but
Yeah. But you have to start with yourself. You can't expect people to show up for you in a way that you don't even show up for yourself, or in a way that you're not capable of showing up for other people. That was one of the things that I had to recently grapple with was how am I showing up for my friends? And that was hard because I was like, but I'm in grad school, but I've gone through X, Y, and Z, but I have all these problems. Yeah, but like they still need support. And so being able to communicate, hey, you know, I'm going through X, Y, and Z. This part of my PhD is rough, rough, lemon rough. And I'm not able to show up for you the way that I would have been able to show up for you in like 2019. That doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It just means that, you know, hey, this is where I'm at. Can you lend me some grace?
I'll say this is the earlier you learn to do that, the better it is for you. From the other side, right? You know, being a bit being older, more mature, is who you are in every decade. There are parts of you that are going to change. There are parts of you as you create those boundaries are going to stay the same. But knowing that what's changing and what's staying the same and what needs to come in and what needs to go, the earlier you learn how to navigate that in a as thoughtful a way as possible, right? Benefits you because then, like everything else, with practice, you perfect over time. And so, I know for me, well, Remy does say she's from Chicago. I'm from Brooklyn. So do with that what you will. Do with that information what you will. But I know my automatic response is 0 and 100, right? Quick.
Yeah.
So we can be kumbaya, and I'll let it sit and I'll let it sit and I'll let it sit. And then every 5 years, I like to go real rah, 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 beast mode. Oh, so that's what we doing? Boom, 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 boom. And then I go back to, all right, cool. I got it on my chest. Now, did I just burn everything behind me? Possibly. And so I don't want you to do that, right? Knowing how to do it with grace is key, but that takes practice. And so when you spend that time to to find your community, like Remy said, it's also understanding who you are. So taking that solitude is not a bad thing, right? If you're leveraging that time to say, what's important to me, what do I like, what don't I like right now, you know, and sit in it for a minute and understand it, so that as you're looking for to bring people into your space, you have a discerning spirit, right? You have a discerning mind. And when it starts to shift, when you start to grow, when you start to to start pivot into, find yourself pivoting into something else, you can say, you know what, and again, a lot of things could be the catalyst for you bringing someone in, or letting someone know that you're ready to change the dynamic of the relationship. When you have that conversation, it's easier for you to, as they say, stand on business, because you know who you are, and why this does or does not serve you. And I think that that's hard there for some than others. It could be personality, or it could be other factors. So this is more of a PSA of, it's not easy for anybody, right? This idea of learning yourself, and more importantly, learning when to let things go. But think, if you're literally building a home, right? The home, the structure, it's still going to be the four walls. You still got to check your foundation, make sure there are no cracks, make sure if you're going to repair something, that you're putting something that's of equal or better quality. I mean, my mom, just her boiler just went out of the blue, right? She wasn't expecting that, but it was it stopped working. And so now there's a period of discomfort, right? Things have shifted, but, and again, this is more technical in space, but once she replaces it, now she's better for it, right? She's removed the old, something's happened where it stopped working, she had to take it out, put in something new. You're constantly building, right? Or if you have a four-wall house, you're like, listen, I want to extend this into, a three-block mansion. All right, cool. You extend it out, live your best life, right? But all of that requires you learning what you want, understanding why you want it, and knowing how to make it happen. Same difference.
Yeah.
So, I think that that's an important part of the growing up story, if you will.
That's really important. I think something that I have struggled with and eventually came to terms with was sitting in my situation. I
Mm,
think when I first got here, I was like, okay, I don't like this. I don't like where I'm at. I miss my community.
mm,
And how do I like recreate that here? And the major hurdle that you wind up getting to and having to clear is that it's not going to be like what you've ever built. It's different, and therefore final product is going to be different. So you have to spend some time sitting in it, just stewing in the fact that I don't like this. I hate where I'm at. I hate the way the sun rises in this city. I hate the way the sun sets in this city. I hate the buses. I hate the trains. I hate the dog that my neighbor has. So like you just have to hate everything for a very long time. And then one day you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm tired of being a hater. How do I now make this pleasant? And that's when you start doing things like, okay, going to events, building out the community, really seeking it, and stop saying, like, oh, why don't you guys have a proper train system? You start actually saying, like, okay, yes, y'all don't have a train system, but the bus works when it works. You do have to hate where you are and kind of allow yourself to feel that because, that feeling is real and it deserves acknowledgement, just like joy, happiness, excitement. So just like you acknowledge the fact that, oh, I'm excited to be moving to a new city, starting grad school, starting a new job, blah, blah, blah. Whatever stage of life you're in, wherever you're graduating from, all true to the fact that I don't necessarily like it. It's not what I imagined.
So I will counter that um, with this little tidbit, and you probably know what I'm about to say, Remy,
Yes.
but the question you should also be asking is, I'm here. What's the purpose that I'm here to? What's the purpose that I can serve while I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not ideal? Because let's be honest. I know people, you know, Brooklyn born and raised. So for me, home is always where it's everything for me, right? I love being home. I love summers in Brooklyn, but there's not everybody likes New York. And I remember there's one of my friends, she moved to New York in her 20s, I want to say, but she always knew this wasn't for her, even though she was in a profession where New York would be a place to be for what she's doing and what she does. It just wasn't for her. But even though it wasn't for her at the time, she did what she needed to do to get what she needed to get done. But and so that's survival. And that's one part of life, and it's wrought with angst and anxiety, in my opinion. Right? When you tell somebody you're in survival mode, it's this idea of you're thinking what's in front of you and what's 10 steps ahead of you and what's 20 steps ahead of you, because if I'm not prepared now, I'm not going to be prepared then. It's just this rush of anxiety. And so, that's not a place I would want people to be. For me, it's more of, well, how do you find your space so that you're thriving in it? Right. And I don't care if your craft is painting shoelaces and that's the thing that brings you joy. But if that's the thing that you say, this is what I like to do, and no one else is doing it, and that's fine. But while I'm sitting in this place where I'm like, I really wish there was more of a nightlife, or I wish there was more of a, I don't know, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
It's saying, well, what do I do, or what is something that I've wanted to do that now that I'm working with practically a blank slate that I can do to create this joy, right? I'm always of the opinion that there's enough for everybody, and I think of it in there was I don't remember the quote verbatim, but the long and short of it is bread is bread, right? But when you go into the grocery, there are a plethora of options. And that's not stopping people from making bread, whether they do it on a very artisanal, local mom and pop level to, well, I want my bread to be in Target or in Walmart or, some big box retailer. There is still bread. And so whatever your niche is, whatever bread you're making, especially if you're in a space where you're like, I don't see the bread I like, or, there's just not something that's really fulfilling me the way this does, nothing's stopping you from sharing and creating that lane. Right. And so that, and we, speaking to that in earlier, as far as either it's there or you're building it. And I think you're going to have those people that come in right here in the middle and say, I don't want to build nothing. But what you want us to do with that? What you want us to
I mean, let's be honest. There are always two extremes, but reality always lies somewhere in between. So there are times where you're like, and I want people to really understand this. You don't have to build everything.
That's a
That can
fact.
be exhausting. As a grad
That's a fact.
student,
That's a
um,
fact.
as a grad student, we are who we are as people. We are the type A. We were the kids that were in the front of the class reminding the teacher had homework. You want to collect it?
Oh God.
Yeah. We were
Mm,
those kids. But now
mm.
we're in grad school and we're respectfully fighting for our lives. And so there are going to be times where you're like, I don't want to build anything. Me being in grad school should be enough. And it is. Me being in this new city, working for insert biotech, tech, fintech, whatever company should be enough. And it is. But if you're in Tulsa, what are you going to do? If you're
That's true.
in nondescript city, USA,
Yeah.
nondescript city, remote places on the earth, what are you going to do?
You come to the Grad Connect, link up with
Yes.
us. This is the community right here, boo.
Yes, the community is
These
here
your
for the
people
Grad Connect, but I want you to also feel like, okay,
in real
outside
life.
of this,
Yeah.
who am I in real life? What do I have to offer in real life? And like I said earlier, your community starts with you. So, how do you make sure you're good first and foremost?
Yeah.
And then building out from there. Because truthfully, nobody wants to be around the person that's miserable. So,
That's
while I said you do need to sit in the fact that you don't like where you are, the next step is pulling yourself out of that headspace. It's okay to be like, I don't like this city, I don't like whatever, but pull yourself out of it eventually because nobody wants to be around all that. Start to figure out how you're going to build a life here because for whatever reason you came to whatever location you came to, you have to be there for some time, whether it's 6 months, 6 years, somewhere in between. You have to figure out a life here. And who knows, maybe you meet your soulmate. Maybe you meet maid of honor, best man at your wedding.
Girl, maybe just find some really good pizza.
Yeah.
That makes you taste
Honestly,
it more.
it doesn't have to be the storybook ending, but
But
I
it's
want you
good
to
pizza.
expect the unexpected. Expect that you're going to meet people, do things that are going to change your perspective on who and what and where you are. And that's okay and fine.
I want to add something onto that because I think it also breeds the question, just that self-discovery piece, or if finding yourself, better yet, finding yourself in this place of perpetual frustration. And how do you even navigate out of that? Now, we are not therapists, we are not social workers, and so this is not meant to be type of clinical
Yeah.
advice or recommendation. So I say this from a space of emotional wellness. It really may be you just waking up every day, looking in your mirror and speaking to the person that you're looking to become,
Mm-hmm.
speaking to your future. And I'm not saying that just to say it, I'm saying because that's what I had to do for myself. When I experienced a very extreme, it's very serious loss in my life, I can say now it took me in totality about 8 years to really process that and work through the levels, the stages, the layers of grief. I didn't know it then. I know it now. That's the beauty of getting older and having an opportunity to reflect. But when I'd made the decision to say, this can't be my existence, I can't be this angry, I literally had, I not I had to, I woke up every day I woke up and I went to the bathroom mirror and I had to say to myself, I am, I'm filled with peace. I am grateful for the lessons that I'm learning. I am, I am choosing to move forward in this way because this is how I want to be able to show up for myself and for others. It was a conversation. I also did what's that show that Gabrielle Union was in? Mary Jane, being Mary Jane.
Yes,
Lord,
yes,
it
yes,
took a long
yes.
time to get to. Woo, Jesus. But she has, one of the things that was, unique about her character, I'll say unique, was she had post-its throughout her house, which stood out because I think every time she had a dude come over, she had to take all of them down. I was like, girl, you need to put this in a notebook or something. But anyway, she had the post-its. And I don't can't think of anybody right now who does that personally, but I know I had to do it, and I needed that daily reminder of, all right, this is important to you, and we this could be a whole topic in and of itself. I'm not even gonna lie, but where I was in that at that point in life, it was positioning myself out of the frustration, positioning myself to move beyond the grief, positioning myself to not wanting to do Brooklyn things to people that ain't from Brooklyn in a very mean, why you looking at me type of way. And I'm a lover. I am a lover, y'all. I'm a Zen kumbaya. Yeah, I'm not I'm not into the aggression, but the grief was what consumed me. And so that's what I had to do. And so yes, you may have thought, hey, you're moving to this XYZ town, USA would be amazing. It turns out that it's not. It's where you have to dig a bit deeper. You have to also be very intentional. And just like a workout plan to see the results, you got to be consistent,
Mm,
right? And so you may not have to build it, but whatever choice that you make, if you're seeking a result, you have to say, listen, every day or every other week, whatever the cadence is that you set for what you're looking to do to move beyond, and then also create this community, the onus is still going to fall on you. So to a point that you made earlier, as far as just, you know, knowing you first, I tell people all the time that is not selfish. That's self-awareness. There's nothing wrong with knowing that, listen, I know I don't like licorice.
hmm.
Don't serve it to me in a cup. Don't serve it to me on a napkin. Don't put it in a drink. Like, I don't like licorice. So people now know, all right, cool. You don't like licorice.
Yeah.
Boundary has been set. But you're not going to know that. And they're not going to know that if you let everybody give you licorice and you begrudgingly, and you mad. Don't make sense. So just wanted to throw that in there for folks to know it's a journey. Life is not, life is, it's not linear, right? Yes, there are people who say, I want to be a doctor, and they become a doctor, and that's great. But I also said I wanted to become a doctor, and here I am on this podcast, not a doctor, not a PhD, not an MD, but I'm here. You know what I mean? And so, this is this that there that's also okay. And
Yeah.
so when you find yourself in these new spaces, new part of life, again, in the physical sense, in the emotional sense, that's okay. It comes with the territory of being an adult. We're here to just, make it less stressful as best as we can, but also to help you understand you're not alone. And something I had a high school teacher tell me, or tell the class rather, was the more personal a situation, the more universal it is. And the older I've gotten, the more I understand that, the more I don't even need to believe it because I see it, right?
Yeah.
And so that this is the space as we work with you to 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 move to make this something that is beyond, us being virtual. This is still a space, right? To get connected to folks, similar interests, different interests, but are they're in this space of searching and seeking answers or understanding. And if we can share our experiences to make that easier for you, then for I will say, we've done what we've been called to do, but on a personal level, that brings me so much joy. Oh my God, you're winning! Two-finger clap. It's cute.
Yeah,
I go
no.
to social media no more. Social media gonna have me set. They set me up.
No, I think what you said definitely summarizes everything that we're trying to do here. And I feel like, as as much as I've talked about like, oh, sit in your anger, sit in your frustration, just know that on the other end, that things get better, whether better for you is just tolerable or better is thriving, loving it, wanting to stay where you are forever and ever. Just know that there is another side of the
Yeah,
coin.
yeah,
And, I think that, at the end of the day, that hope is what keeps us going every day. That there is another side, things will get better. We are here for you. You can find ways to connect to people that you want to get connected to, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual. There's another side to the coin. So you're going to be all right. I think on that note, we can close off today. Thank you so much for joining us.
this was fun. I truly appreciate, Remy. for creating this space for us to do the work that we're doing. Appreciate you all for being present and sitting in and enjoying the conversation, being a part of it. If you are interested in dropping a topic or question that you'd like us to bring to the broader audience, you're more than welcome to reach out to us on IG. As Remy mentioned earlier, our handle is at the Grad Connect, no spaces, all one word. Our link tree is there, so you're able to find us on other social media platforms. We build this out, and if you're looking to watch this again or share this with a friend, we'll keep you up to date when we post it on our YouTube channel. You're also welcome to email us at info.tgcpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to having you join us again for our next podcast. Make sure you are following us on IG because that's where we'll be posting everything, keeping you all up to date on what's happening, what's happened, what's happening, and what's coming up next. And with that, we are out. I'm Ree.
I'm Remy. Bye.
Bye, y'all.